The great hall was quiet. It was a room designed to make you feel small but also smart. This was the Xenostrategic Academy, a place where the best minds from 100 different worlds came to learn the art of peace and the science of war. The students were as different from each other as rocks from rain. There was a being made of what looked like shifting purple crystal, catching the light. Another looked like a small, dense cloud contained within a simple suit, a faint lightning flickering inside it. There were others with multiple arms or eyes on stalks, or skin that changed color with their mood. They filled the rows of sleek, flowing desks. Instructor Clar stood at the front. He was tall and thin, with skin like polished gray stone. From his shoulders grew feathery appendages that moved slowly, like grass in a gentle wind. These feathers showed his mood and his rank. Right now they were held in a calm, ready pattern. He was a Valorian, a species known for deep thought and long memories. The semester ends with a final test of concept, Clar said. His voice was not loud, but it carried to every corner of the silent room. You have studied energy fields, particle physics, gravity manipulation, and systemic collapse theory. Now you will apply it. Your task is to design, in theory, a weapon. Not a simple tool of battle, but a weapon of ultimate deterrence. A thing so powerful its mere idea guarantees safety. You will present your design to the class. A wave of excitement moved through the room. It sounded like soft chimes, low clicks, and a hum of different tones. One by one, the students activated their personal projectors. The air above their desks came alive with light and shape. A heavy-looking student from Jorg, a planet of high gravity, was first. Its skin was like tough hide, and it had 4 deep-set eyes. It showed a complex model of a ship. The gravity fusion lance, its voice boomed. It fires a focused beam that twists the gravity of a target. A planet would collapse into itself. A fleet would be crushed into a ball of metal. The class made sounds of approval. The instructor's feathers gave a slow, acknowledging wave. Next was a delicate being from Tova. She had large, dark eyes and fine, silvery fur. Her fingers were long and moved with quick grace. Her hologram showed a beautiful, intricate network of light. A neural harmony disruptor, she whistled softly. It does not break bodies, it breaks collective thought. It sends waves that stop a population from agreeing, from working together. They become confused, peaceful, and unable to wage war. It targets the will to fight. Clar nodded again. A subtle approach, elegant. More presentations followed. A weapon that turned a star's radiation into a killing pulse, a device that could unmake complex molecules, causing ships or buildings to simply fall apart into dust. The air was thick with visions of ultimate power. Each idea was more grand, more complex, and required more fantastic technology than the last. It was a parade of genius. In the very last row, sitting at a plain, bolt-down desk made of simple gray alloy, was Leo. He was the only human in the class. He watched the presentations with quiet eyes. He did not fidget. He did not start his own projector. He just listened. To the others, humans were a curiosity. They were a young species, new to the great community of stars. They were known for being straightforward. They had not yet shed their past. They still remembered what it was like to hold a tool in their hand, to feel its weight. Here in this hall of light and thought, Leo sometimes felt like a ghost from an older, simpler time. As a student from a water world explained a weapon that could boil oceans, Leo's gaze drifted away from the dazzling lights. He looked down. His eyes fell on his desk, then on the chair he was sitting on. It was not a fancy chair. It was not part of the flowing design of the room. It was a functional thing, made of the same tough, slightly textured alloy as the desk. It had a flat seat, a straight back, and 4 solid legs that were bolted to the floor for stability in different gravities. It was simple. It was strong. It was just a place to sit. Leo's fingers, which had been resting on the cool surface of the desk, moved. They dropped to his side and brushed against one of the chair's legs. It was about as thick as his wrist, and it was cold. He wrapped his hand around it. He did not move it. He just felt its solidity. In his mind, he was not seeing gravity lances or harmony disruptors. He was thinking of a stick. He was thinking of the oldest idea in human history, the idea of taking a thing and making one end sharp, the idea of putting distance between yourself and the thing that wants to hurt you. His thumb rubbed a small spot on the metal leg. He thought of wood and stone and bone. He thought of hands shaping something for a single clear purpose. The presentations went on. Another student, whose body was a mass of fine tendril-like vines, showed a weapon that would seed a planet with fast-growing plants that would eat all metal. The class was impressed. Leo did not hear the details. He was looking at the chair leg. In his mind, he saw a very clear, very simple image. He saw himself standing up. He saw his hands gripping the chair. He heard a quick, hard crack of the alloy breaking. He saw himself holding the broken piece, its end a ragged, sharp point. A small, almost invisible smile touched the corner of his mouth. It was not a smile of joy or of arrogance. It was the smile of someone who has seen through a very complicated illusion and found a single plain truth hiding underneath all the noise. Instructor Clark's voice brought him back. "Leo Foster, you are the final presenter. The human perspective is awaited." All the strange and wonderful eyes in the room turned to look at him. The holograms of world-ending devices hung in the air, waiting to be joined by another. The silence was complete. Leo took a slow breath. He did not reach for his projector controls. He did not look at the grand star map on the ceiling. He looked at his chair. The class waited. The galaxy of possibilities was before him, and he saw only one thing: a simple length of metal and a point. The sound of his name seemed to hang in the air. All the strange eyes were on him now. The brilliant lights from the other holograms painted the faces of the alien students in shifting colors. They waited for the human to show his great idea. Leo stood up. The movement was calm. He did not walk to the main presentation area in the center of the room. He did not turn on the powerful holoprojector built into his desk. Instead, he took 2 steps to the side and stopped next to his own simple chair. He looked down at it. The class watched, confused. Instructor Clark's feathery appendages, which had been flowing gently, went very still. Without a word, Leo bent down. He placed one hand on the chair's seat for stability. He wrapped his other hand around one of the chair's cold, solid legs, right where it met the seat. He took a breath, bracing his feet. Then he pulled. It was not a gentle pull. It was a sudden, violent twist and yank, putting all the strength of his shoulder and back into it. The sound was awful in the quiet hall. A sharp, metallic crack, followed by the groan of stressed alloy and the screech of tearing fasteners. The bolt holding the leg to the floor snapped. The one holding it to the seat gave way with a ping. In one motion, Leo straightened up. In his hand, he held a jagged piece of metal about as long as his arm. One end was smooth where it had been part of the seat. The other end was a mess of sharp, torn edges and composite material. It was ugly. It was brutal. It was just a broken piece of furniture. He held it up so everyone could see. The rough end caught the light from a nearby hologram of a star destroyer. "My weapon," Leo said. His voice was clear and even. It did not boom like the Georgians or whistle like the Tovanis. It was just a human voice in a very quiet room. For 3 full seconds, there was nothing. Then a sound started. It came from a student shaped like a collection of floating spheres. It was a bubbly, gurgling noise. It was laughter. A few others joined in, chivers and soft clicks of amusement. The great thinkers of the galaxy looked at the human holding a chair leg, and they found it funny. The Tovani, Ilara, who sometimes studied with Leo, looked down at her desk, her silvery fur rippling with embarrassment for him. Instructor Clark's stone-gray face was unreadable, but his feathers slowly lowered into a tight, flat pattern against his back. This was the sign of extreme disapproval. "Leo Foster," he said, his voice cool. "This is a presentation on strategic deterrence theory, not a demonstration of Vandalism. Please explain your object. Leo nodded. He ignored the laughing students. He walked to the center of the room now, still holding the broken leg. He stopped in front of the main holoprojector, but he did not use it. The beautiful, complex designs of the other weapons floated around him like ghosts of a future he was ignoring. You have all shown amazing things, things that control gravity, or break minds, or eat stars. They are weapons for gods. They need huge ships, or perfect calculations, or special materials that only exist on one planet. If your power fails, they are nothing. If your enemy has a shield you didn't expect, they are nothing. They are the last step in a very long, very complicated chain. He lifted the chair leg higher. This is the first step. This is the step you never get away from. He walked slowly along the front row, letting them see the crude point. Every species in this room that evolved on something like land, that had to worry about something with teeth coming at them, understands this shape. You might have forgotten, but your ancestors knew it. A sharp point, a long stick, something that puts distance between your soft body and the thing that wants to end you. He stopped and looked at the heavy Georgian. Your gravity lance could crush a moon, but if the enemy is already in this room with you and your systems are down, what do? You have great strength. Do you have a point? The Georgian's 4 eyes blinked, but it said nothing. Leo turned to the Tovani who made the harmony disruptor. Your device stops groups from thinking together. It is clever. But if one angry creature is coming at you right now, does it care about group harmony? It only cares about its own hunger or fear or hate. You need to stop it right now. Not its thoughts, its body. He looked back at the whole class. This, he said, shaking the metal leg slightly, is a spear. It is not a theory. It is a fact. It is the fact that a sharp thing pushed into a vital spot ends a threat. It is made from anything, a broken chair, a piece of fence, a branch from a tree. It needs no power core. It needs no software that can be hacked. It only needs a hand to hold it and the will to use it. He walked back to the front and faced Clar directly. Your assignment was a weapon of ultimate deterrence. The ultimate deterrence is not fear of a distant explosion. It is the immediate, certain knowledge that if you come close, you will be met with a point. It is knowing that every single person, in every single room, in every single ship, has within reach the means to make that point. You cannot disarm them all. You cannot hack a rock. You cannot disable a stick. The spear doesn't make everyone a soldier. It reminds every possible enemy that everyone can be a defender. The hall was silent again. The laughter had died. Now the students were thinking. Some looked annoyed, as if he had insulted their intelligence. Some looked puzzled, turning the idea over in their minds. The floating sphere student had stopped bubbling. Instructor Clar's feathers remained flat. Your thesis, he said slowly, is a primitive simplification. It ignores millennia of tactical evolution. We have moved beyond sticks and stones, Leo Foster. The universe is complex. Our tools match that complexity. Deterrence operates on a scale you seem not to comprehend. It is about preventing war entirely, not winning a hallway fight. Leo did not argue. He simply lowered the chair leg. A war is just a lot of hallway fights happening at the same time, he said quietly. If you can't win the one in front of you, you lose the whole thing. All the big weapons in the galaxy can't change that. Clar gave a final slow shake of his head. The gesture was not angry, but it was final. It was the look of a teacher who has heard a deeply wrong answer from a student who simply doesn't understand the basics. The project requires a design of strategic, scalable weaponry. You have presented a piece of debris. The grade for this assignment is a failure. The words were calm and clean. They hung in the air. A few students shifted in their seats. Ilara, the Tovani, gave Leo a look that was full of pity. Leo just nodded once.
He didn't seem surprised. He didn't seem angry. He just seemed sure. He walked back to his desk. He did not sit in the broken chair, which now leaned at a sad angle on 3 legs. He picked up his datapad, and he kept the broken chair leg in his other hand. He didn't throw it in the recycler. He carried it with him as he walked, the last student out of the great lecture hall. The grand holograms winked out one by one behind him, leaving only the light of the real stars on the other side of the clear walls.
The grade was posted on the Academy network for everyone to see. Next to Leo's name, in the column for the final weapons project, was a single red symbol. It meant failure. For the other students, the symbols were blue or brilliant gold, marking success and high achievement. Leo looked at the screen in his small quarters, then shut it off. The room was dark, except for the constant, gentle light from the stars outside his window. He knew the failure was coming. He had seen it in Kalar's flat feathers, in the quiet closing of the instructor's mind to the idea. Still, seeing the official mark was a different kind of cold feeling. It sat in his stomach like a stone. He did not go to the celebration that night. The other students gathered in the social commons, a wide-open space with floating platforms and food from a dozen worlds. They talked about their projects, about the exciting posts they would get on deep space research vessels or strategic think tanks. Their laughter and strange, happy sounds drifted down the hallway like music from another planet. Leo walked the other way. He carried the broken chair leg with him. Its weight was familiar in his hand now. He found his friend, Ilara, waiting for him near the observation deck. She was not with the others either. Her large, dark eyes looked at him with concern. The silvery fur on her face seemed to droop a little. "I am sorry, Leo," she whispered softly. "Your words, they had truth. I had been thinking about them. The idea of the immediate fight, it has a logic." "But?" Leo asked, leaning on the rail and looking out at the stars. "But you did not speak their language," she said. Her delicate hands moved in the air, trying to shape the thought. "This place, it is built on complexity. To them, a simple answer does not mean it is wise. It means you did not see all the layers. They wanted a symphony. You played one note, a loud, clear note, but just one. They cannot give a prize for a single note." Leo nodded. He understood. He was not angry at Kalar or the class. They lived in a different universe than he did. His was an old one, written in stone and blood and simple needs. Theirs was written in energy and data and grand plans. The 2 languages did not translate well. "What will you do?" Ilara asked. Leo held up the chair leg. In the starlight, the jagged end looked even more crude and dangerous. "I am going to finish it." "Finish it? It is a broken chair." "It is a rough copy of a spear," he corrected her gently. "A copy is just a reminder of the real thing. I am going to make it into the real thing." Ilara blinked. She did not understand, but she saw the quiet determination in his eyes. She touched his arm with her thin fingers, a gesture of friendship, and then left him alone with the stars. Leo did not go to his room. He went to the fabrication bay. This was a place for students to build models of their ideas, to test small parts of their designs. At this hour, it was empty and silent. The tools sat waiting in their places. There were nano-lathes that could shape metal with beams of light. There were molecular binders and laser cutters. Other students had used them to make perfect miniatures of their weapon cores or delicate circuit boards. Leo walked past all of that. He went to a simple manual workstation. He placed the chair leg in a holding cramp. He turned on a small bright light. For a long time, he just looked at it. He looked at the torn metal, the messy break. He was not seeing what it was. He was seeing what it could be. In his mind, he smoothed the grip. He sharpened the point from a random tear into a clean, vicious tip. He added balance. He started with a file. It was a simple tool, a strip of hard material with rough teeth. He pushed it along the jagged end. The sound was a harsh, scraping rasp. Tiny shavings of metal curled away and fell to the floor. He worked slowly, with a steady rhythm. Scrape, turn,
scrape, turn. The noise was the only sound in the big, quiet room. He was not just shaping metal, he was thinking. He thought about his ancestors, the first humans who had done this with a piece of flint and a stick. They were not thinking about deterring a war across the stars. They were thinking about the wolf outside the cave, about the rival from the next valley. Their need was immediate. Their solution was direct. That need, he believed, never really went away. It just got buried under cities and machines and light years of travel. After a long while, he switched to a finer tool. The edge was beginning to take shape. It was no longer a random break. It was becoming a point. Then he moved to the nano lathe. He programmed it not for complexity, but for simplicity. He had it scan the shaft and smooth out all the rough edges, making the grip perfect for his hand. The machine hummed, a beam of light tracing the metal, melting away imperfections at a level too small for the eye to see. While it worked, he walked over to a recycling bin. He dug through it. He found a piece of discarded composite panel, flat and tough. Using a laser cutter, he carefully cut a long, thin triangle from it. He took this piece and fastened it just below where his hand would hold the metal shaft. He used strong bonding glue. It was not fancy. It was a simple, solid fin. Ilara found him there later. She watched from the doorway, silent. She saw him holding the finished object. It was no longer a chair leg. It was something else. The grip was smooth and dark. The point was now a wicked, needle-sharp cone of polished alloy that caught the light and threw it back in a single, cold flash. The composite fin near the bottom was for balance, to help it fly straight if it was thrown. "You made it beautiful," she whispered, surprised. "No," Leo said, turning it in his hands. "I made it honest. Before, it was just broken. Now it is purpose. It tells the truth about what it is." He held it out, level. It was perfectly balanced. It felt alive in his hand, like it wanted to leap forward. "They failed you," Ilara said, her whistling voice sad, "for an idea they thought was too small." "They didn't fail me," Leo said, his eyes on the spear's point. "They taught me a different lesson. They taught me that in this galaxy of wonders, they have forgotten the first question." "What question?" "What do you do when the monster is already in the room?" He lowered the spear. "All their answers for monsters far away, they have no answer for the one at the door. This," he said, nodding to the weapon in his hand, "is the answer, the oldest one, the only one that always works." He did not take it back to his quarters. He left it in the fabrication bay, in a simple locker. He did not need to look at it. The lesson was not in the object anymore. It was in his head. As he walked back through the quiet halls of the sleeping academy, he felt a strange calm. The red failure symbol on his record meant nothing. He had remembered something his whole species had almost forgotten out here among the stars. He had remembered how to make a point. Outside the giant windows, the nebula glowed, a vast cloud of colorful gas where new stars were being born. It was a scene of cosmic power and incredible beauty. Leo glanced at it. It was amazing, but his mind was on simpler things, on the solid feel of a grip in his palm, on the clean line from that grip to a sharp tip, on the short, deadly distance between a problem and its end.
The graduation ceremony was meant to be the perfect end. The great hall was filled with a soft, golden light. Families from across the sector watched via floating view screens, their alien faces proud and happy. Instructor Clar stood on the main platform, his feathery appendages arranged in a complex, beautiful pattern of honor and completion. He spoke of the future, of the peace and stability this class would build with their brilliant minds. He called it the dawn of a new strategic age. Leo sat with his classmates. He wore the simple gray student tunic like everyone else. He had no family screen floating near him. He just listened, his hands resting in his lap. On his datapad, the red failure symbol still showed next to the weapons project. He was here, but he was not really part of this celebration. He was a footnote. Clar was about to call the first student to receive their diploma when the lights flickered. It was just a quick pulse. A few students looked up. Then the lights flickered again, longer this time, and the golden glow was replaced by a dull, emergency red. A low, thrumming alarm began to sound. It was not loud, but it was deep, and it vibrated in the bones. On the view screens, the proud family faces dissolved into static. A voice, sharp with panic, came over the Academy's communication system. It was a security officer. "Unsanctioned breach! Multiple entry points on the lower decks! Hostiles are—" The voice cut off with a burst of ugly noise. Then the gravity failed. It did not go away completely. It became uneven, sickening. One moment Leo felt heavy, pressed into his seat. The next, he felt almost weightless, floating up before slamming back down. Around him, chaos erupted. Alien students cried out in fear and confusion. The Georgian roared, trying to steady itself. The floating sphere student bobbed wildly, crashing into a desk. Instructor Clark spread his arms, his feathers flaring wide. "Remain calm. The defense systems will—" Before he could finish, the main bores to the hall exploded inward. Not with fire, but with a blast of distorted energy that made the air smell like burnt metal. Figures stepped through the smoke. They were scavers. Leo had heard of them in security briefings. Space pirates, scavengers. They were roughly humanoid, but their bodies were a mix of dirty organic parts and crude, bolted-on cybernetics. One had a metal jaw that clicked. Another had a glowing red eye lens that swept across the room. They carried heavy, mean-looking weapons, not energy blades, but powered clubs with crackling ends and short-barreled projectile guns. They moved with a hungry, jerky speed. Their leader, a scaver with a dented metal chest plate, raised a device in its clawed hand and activated it. A wave of invisible energy washed through the hall. It made Leo's teeth ache. All around the room, things died. The floating view screens went black and fell to the floor with a crash. The beautiful holographic star maps sputtered and vanished. The small personal devices on the students' desks gave out tiny puffs of smoke. Every complex system in the room had been hit by a dampening field. It was a pirate's tool. It turned advanced technology into useless junk. One of the students, the one made of shifting crystal, tried to activate a personal defense projector. Nothing happened. The scaver leader laughed, a sound like grinding rocks. "No lights, little thinkers. Just quiet. The reactor core is ours. You stay or you get broken." The scavers began to move forward, herding the terrified students into a corner. They knocked aside desks with brutal swings of their clubs. Their purpose was clear. They were not here to fight a battle. They were here to steal. And they had brought the perfect tool to make the smartest beings in the sector helpless. Instructor Claus stood before them, unarmed. His feathers were tight with fury, but also with a dreadful understanding. He looked at his students, the masters of gravity and neural fields and molecular destruction. They were cowering. Their great weapons were ideas in their heads, and ideas could not stop a powered club coming at your skull. The dampening field had made them all primitive again, and in their primitive state, they had forgotten what to do. Leo had not forgotten. While the others were pushed back, he dropped low behind his row of desks. His heart was pounding, but his mind was cold and clear. The monster is in the room. He did not look for a control panel. He did not try to reboot his dead datapad. He thought about distance. He thought about a point. He moved not towards the door, but sideways into a service corridor behind the lecture platform. It was dark, lit only by the pulsing red emergency strips on the floor. The sounds of the scavers and the cries of his classmates grew fainter. He was not running away. He was moving with a purpose. He reached the fabrication bay. The door was locked, but the power failure had knocked out its electronic bolt. He forced it open with a hard shove. Inside, the machines were dark and silent. He went straight to the small locker. He opened it. There it was, the spear. The polished metal shaft felt cool and right in his hand. The sharp point was a dull gray in the red light. He hefted it, feeling its perfect balance. It was just a piece of shaped metal and composite. The dampening field meant nothing to it. He heard a shout and the sound of running footsteps in the main hallway outside the bay. They were spreading out. He peered out the door. 2 scavers were coming down the hall, checking rooms. One was close.
Leo did not hide. He stepped out into the hallway. The scaver saw him. It saw the simple metal stick in his hands. Its red eyelids brightened, and it made that grinding laugh again. It raised its heavy, crackling club. "Little animal with a stick," it gurgled and charged. Leo planted his feet. He did not charge back. He let the thing come. The club swung in a wild, brutal arc meant to crush his head. Leo ducked, not backward, but forward and to the side. He was inside the swing. The club hissed through the air where he had been. The scaver was off balance. In that single, open moment, Leo's arms moved. It was not a wild stab. It was a sharp, tight, forward thrust. He put the weight of his body behind it. The sharpened point of the spear, designed to pierce, found a gap in the scaver's rusty chest plate near the shoulder joint. It punched through wiring, conduits, and organic tissue beneath. The scaver did not scream. It made a shocked, gurgling sound. Its club fell from its hands, clattering on the floor. Its systems sparked. It stumbled back and collapsed, a tangle of twitching limbs. The second scaver, further down the hall, saw this. It saw its partner on the floor, a simple metal rod sticking out of it. It saw the human already pulling the spear free, his face calm and focused. The scaver hesitated. This was not in its plan. This was not a fight against security bots or stunned students. This was something raw and sudden. Leo looked at the second scaver. He didn't yell. He didn't taunt. He just raised the point of the spear towards it and took one slow, deliberate step forward. The scaver turned and ran, calling out in its harsh language. Leo knew he only bought a moment. He turned and sprinted back towards the great hall. He was not just one person with a stick now. He was a person with a proof, the oldest proof in the universe, and he had to show it to the others before it was too late. The hallway fight was just beginning, and for the first time, the monsters in the room had a reason to be afraid.
The scene in the great hall was one of helpless terror. The students were pressed against the far wall, a huddle of confused brilliance. The scavers moved among the wrecked desks, their confidence growing. They were not warriors, they were bullies who had found a room full of geniuses who could not fight back. One of them was prying open a wall panel, looking for the main data conduit to the reactor. Instructor Clar stood between the pirates and his students, a shield with no weapon. His feathers were flat with rage and a deep, shaming despair. He had taught them to bend the laws of physics, but he had never taught them what to do when the law no longer applied. He saw the failure now, vast and terrible. Then a side door hissed open. Leo stepped back into the hall. He was not running. He walked with a steady, even pace. In his hands, held level and ready, was the spear. Its tip was dark with a strange, oily fluid. His eyes scanned the room, taking in the positions of the 5 remaining scavers. The nearest pirate turned. It saw Leo. It saw the spear. It saw its fallen comrade's fluid on the point. It let out a harsh shout, raising its projectile gun. "No!" Leo's voice cut through the panic, sharp and clear. He wasn't talking to the scaver. He was talking to the Georgian, the huge student cowering near the front. "The big one, the pipe by your foot." The Georgian, its 4 eyes wide with fear, looked down. A length of broken environmental pipe, shaken loose from the ceiling during the breach, lay on the floor. It was heavy, solid metal. "Pick it up," Leo commanded, his eyes still on the advancing scaver. "Hold it like I do. Point the end." Confusion and instinct fought on the Georgian's face. Then, with a grunt, it bent and wrapped its massive hands around the pipe. It stood, holding it awkwardly. The scaver with the gun swung its aim from Leo to the bigger, now armed threat. In that fraction of a second, Leo moved. He closed the distance in 3 quick strides. The scaver tried to turn back, but it was too slow. The spear lanced out, not for the body, but for the weapon. The sharp point jammed into the gun's firing mechanism. There was a crunch of cheap metal, and the gun sparked, falling from the pirate's grip. Leo didn't stop to fight. He shoved the confused scaver hard, sending it stumbling into another. He turned to the huddled students. His face was calm, a rock in the storm of their fear. He yelled to the Georgian, "They only have clubs. The range of a club is the length of their arm. Your arm plus a spear or a pipe or a sharp piece of desk is longer. Stay together. Point your ends at them. They will not like the points. It was not a complicated strategy. It was the first strategy. The hall was their cave. The broken furniture and debris were their flint and branches. He saw Ilara, the delicate Tovani, pressed against the wall. He kicked a long, jagged shard of a broken view screen toward her. Ilara, you don't need to be strong. You need to be sharp. Keep it between you and them. Her dark eyes looked from the sharp shard to Leo's face. Something shifted. The panic was pushed aside by a glimmer of understanding. She picked it up. It was light. She held it out. It was a point. The scavers, recovering, moved in together, anger replacing their smugness. Their leader growled and charged at Leo, its powered club crackling with ugly energy. Leo didn't back up. He yelled to the Georgian, "Now, with me!" The Georgian, gripping its heavy pipe, gave a rumbling roar of its own. It wasn't a clever roar. It was a raw, ancestral sound of defiance. It stepped forward beside Leo and thrust the pipe like a giant spear. The movement was clumsy, but the sheer mass and length of it were impossible to ignore. The scaver leader had to pull up short, swinging its club to deflect the pipe with a loud clang. In that moment of distraction, Leo struck. His thrust was low and fast. The spear's point slid into the joint of the leader's cybernetic leg. There was a shriek of tearing metal and a wet pop. The leader fell, howling. The other students saw it work. They saw the simple, brutal arithmetic of it. Point beats no point. Together, they began to move. The student made of vines whipped out a tendril, wrapping around a scaver's ankle to trip it. Another student grabbed a broken desk leg. They did not become warriors. They became desperate, smart animals, using the oldest tools of all: leverage, distance, and a sharp edge. The scavers, used to easy prey, were unnerved. Their technological advantage was gone. Now they were in a fight where the rules were written in blood and metal, rules they had forgotten, and these students were suddenly remembering. One pirate, seeing its leader down, and the crowd now armed with points and fury, turned and fled back towards the broken doors. The others, their will broken, dragging their wounded. Silence rushed back into the hall, broken only by the low pulsing alarm and the ragged breaths of the students. They stood, clutching their makeshift spears and shards, looking at each other in stunned disbelief. The air smelled of ozone, burnt metal, and fear. Then they all looked at Leo. He stood in the center of the room, breathing slowly. The spear in his hand was steady. The dark fluid on its tip dripped, making a soft tap on the floor. He looked at what they had done, what they had become in just a few minutes. Instructor Clar walked forward. He stepped around the fallen, sparking scaver leader. His feathers, which had been flat with despair, were moving again in a slow, complex pattern Leo had never seen. It was not pride. It was not happiness. It was something deeper, a profound and humbled realization. Clar stopped in front of Leo. He looked at the human's face, then at the simple spear. He looked at his students, holding their pieces of broken academy, their eyes no longer terrified, but awake, alert, alive in a new way. Finally, his gaze returned to Leo. He did not speak of grades or theories. He did not mention the red failure symbol that was, at that moment, being erased from the Academy records by the security system's automatic crisis logs. Instead, Instructor Clar, master of xenostrategics, slowly bowed. It was a deep, formal bow from his people, the one given not to superior force, but to revealed truth. His feathery appendages swept low to the floor. When he rose, his voice was quiet, meant only for Leo, but in the silence, everyone heard. You did not build a weapon of ultimate deterrence. You are the deterrence, the reminder. We built castles of light in the sky and forgot about the ground beneath our feet. You have reminded us of the ground. He turned to the class, his feathers settling into a teacher's pattern once more, but it was a different kind of teaching now. The lesson is concluded. The final grade is not for the weapon you imagine, but for the one you can hold in your hand when the lights go out. Today, you have all passed. Leo finally lowered his spear.
The tension left his shoulders. He looked at the piece of polished metal, this thing that had been a chair leg, then an idea, then a failure, and now just a tool that had done its job. He had not wanted to teach a lesson. He just wanted to show them the point. And now they had all seen it. The galaxy had tried to teach humanity about advanced weaponry. Today, in a quiet hall littered with broken dreams and broken pirates, humanity had reminded the galaxy of what a weapon truly is. It is not a thing that destroys worlds. It is the will to defend your own small piece of one, and the cleverness to use whatever is at hand to do it.